games. It's ScrubGames. Drop a like, drop a sub, go ahead and subscribe to ScrubGames. Drop a like, drop a sub, go ahead and subscribe to ScrubGames.
How's it going, Scrub Gamers? Welcome back to another video here at ScrubGames, and today we are on the last episode of the Understand How to Build series, a series where I go over all the leaders in a given set to help you understand how to build them to suit you and your playstyle. Now, being the last one, we're on the second of the single aspect leaders that we got that are quite unique to this set, and that is Anakin Skywalker. So before we get into it, feel free to like, comment and subscribe, as it keeps you updated with my videos as when they drop. And also by clicking that notification bell, you can then get alerts when my videos do drop, so you can watch them at that time then, or at a later date that suits you best. So let's get into it and help you understand how to build Anakin Skywalker. So with the series, we're always going to start from the leader, because Star Wars Unlimited is a leader-based game, and you can't really build without one, and they're usually what you're going to build your deck around. And in this case, the last two leaders we've got from this are quite unique in that they are single aspect leaders. They are leaders that only have one aspect instead of the usual two, something we haven't had until now. And this one is the heroic leader, Anakin Skywalker, whereas the villainy one was Darth Revan. And he's quite interesting because out of the two, he is the one that requires you to use the Force, making use of the new Force mechanic. So we have here Anakin Skywalker, tempted by the dark side. Tempted by the dark side. That's his little subtitle. He is a solely heroic leader with the Force, Jedi, and Republic traits. So you get some good benefits from each of those. Given that every leader in the set is Force, you get the benefit of that. And he needs to use the Force not just on his front side like a lot of leaders. They just are required to use the Force on their front side when in the lead area. But he also needs to use it when he's out and about as well, when he's deployed. Speaking of deployment, he does deploy relatively early at 5 resources, so when you hit 5 you can bring him out, and he comes out as a 4/6, which is a very respectable good amount of power and health that is outside the range of things like takedown or open fire to be able to take him out straight away, so he can hopefully last a little bit longer. Now his effect is pretty cool because he allows you to play things out of aspect and even like cheat kind of things, where you got some leaders that cheat costs, cheat other things, and he cheats he cheats aspects essentially. So his effect is the same on both sides, just there's a little bit different of a requirement. Well, both sides need to use the Force, both do the same thing, but in the lead area, he can only use it once a turn because he needs to tap himself. On the other side, when he's deployed, he can use it as much as you can gain the Force. So his effect is essentially, in the lead area, action. By exhausting himself and using the Force, so using your Force token you generate, you can play a villainy non-unit card from your hand, ignoring its aspect penalties. Now this is pretty cool, and the nice thing about this that you need to know is that when it says ignoring its aspect penalties, it's not just ignoring the villainy aspect, it's ignoring every single aspect penalty you would get. Meaning you can play a card that is out of aspect, or not just villainy but the other aspect as well. So like you can say you killed Anakin with blue, you can play villainy non-units that are villainy, command, aggression, or cunning, and ignore both those aspect penalties, which is pretty cool. So it means you can play essentially him in blue and then use Overwhelming Barrage and not have to pay the extra 4, which would normally be, and only pay the 5 it would normally be, which is really cool. So it means you can get some really cool non-events played in him as long as you use Force to generate, and that's pretty cool. And when he's deployed, same effect, just doesn't need to exhaust himself. So that's pretty cool, pretty nice leader. Just the only downside of these leaders that are single aspect is that they are only at one aspect. So it means, unlike the other ones where you can get a combination of 2 color aspects, or at least if you go double of that aspect, get the double aspect event or cards as well that you get access to. These don't access any of the double aspects, which is a shame. So they lose access to those if they were going mono, but then they have some pretty interesting effects. They might, it depends how you feel. It could seem like they're very very heavily restricted for something cool to do, or you could think they're actually pretty decent as they are. But also remember that every leader has a showcase, and Anakin's is basically just Timothy Chalamet, or Chalamet. I can't really pronounce his last name, but it looks like him from Dune, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, this is a pretty nice showcase. Not the best, but not the worst. And remember, when it comes to showcases, they are just alternative arts, and art's subjective. So if you like it, fair enough. If you don't like it, fair enough. Because the only opinion that matters for showcases and alternative arts is yours, because you'll be the one playing the card. So that is the leader. Now let's move on to the next part of the video. So this is the part where I would normally go over the basics. If you were a brand new player to Star Wars Unlimited or a brand new player to TCGs in general, then I'll go over all the basics of the game, like the bases, aspects, aspect penalties, and also ratios, so you have all the information at your fingertips in one video. But repeating that kind of information, which is the same information across 18 videos, every time we get a set, we get 18 leaders a set, becomes a lot, like, very draining, repetitive, and just a bit of a pain for myself. And also, while we do get some positive comments about it being appreciated and liked and helpful in the video, sometimes we do get those negative comments from people who don't know how to skip videos or just get past it, thinking they don't need it, so no one else needs it, and that kind of deters away from it as well. So what I've done instead, which you should have a card shown at the top, is I've started doing understanding the basic videos, which I'm going to do for every set, to help you understand the basics of the game as of that set. And since we haven't done one for any previous sets, for this one, given that we got a brand new mechanic with the Force in set 5, I've done one covering all the sets so far, and then for every set going forward, it just be focused on that one set. So if you are brand new to TCGs or to Star Wars in general, I would recommend you go and check that link out, which once again, there should be a card shown at the top that you can link to it, and then come back and finish, go to that, watch that, come back to this video and carry on. But if you're one of those veterans who doesn't need this, then let's carry on. So we have the aspect options. Every leader has a certain amount of aspect options because they're provided with aspects from the leader itself, and then depending what base you get that extra one. Now usually with a leader you get 2 aspects from the leader and then 1 from the base, giving you 3 in total. But with a single aspect leader like Anakin, you get only 2, being the one from the heroic aspect from Anakin, and then a color one depending on what base you put down. Now there's a chance you can go for a 5th one, which gives you no other aspect and leaves you in hardcore mode with just the Heroism one, given being Lake Country. So there's technically 5, but we're going to quickly go over that one and explain why it's not really viable. Now the other aspect options you've either got access to blue, green, red, or yellow, depending on what base you go for. And we're going to go and check out all of these to see what options Anakin has a solid step in. So we're going to start off showing you mainly what stuff Anakin has access to himself, and also why it isn't a good option to go for hardcore, even it could be a good meme to try out, to go for Lake Country Anakin, to go for the sole one aspect on your base and leader. So Anakin here gets to use one aspect, and you can either use the Force, which Lake Country isn't going to generate the Force, so it's not going to be handy, so you're not really going to get any effect of Anakin. And also when you got more health, you only have one aspect, which heavily limits the amount of cards you have. Because it only gives you access to heroism, and if you want to generate the Force, you want to use these kind of cards. Well, these are the only really cards in heroism that can help you generate the Force. Now you got a turn 1 play in Gifted Urchin, which is a aspect lust card. That's a Force unit at 2 costs when you play turn 1, so you start generating the Force. But once again, Lake Country doesn't help you generate that, so it's not going to help you there. And you got these other ones which come down as early as turn 2, 3, and 4, which are later in the game, and means you're not really doing anything. So playing a single aspect is not a good option for Anakin, because one, you can't get a generated Force to make use of Anakin, so he's basically a dead leader. You're just having a 4-6 deploys that, if taken out, you then not do anything, and you're heavily restricting your card pool. So this is why going single aspect is not good in any way, shape, or form for Anakin to have. So let's actually move on to actual talk about the aspect options for Anakin. We'll start off with the blue one. So you got to choose a base when it comes to picking a base. Picking an aspect, you got to add a base to it to help Anakin. And since he needs to use the Force, you generally want to have the Force bases. And there are 2 options in each aspect. You've got the common base, which is the same across all aspects, which are 28 health, and then have the effect where when a friendly Force unit attacks, you gain the Force. So the Force is with you. This gives you that Force token to help you use Anakin's actual effect on the leader. Now, the rare bases, they are a little bit different. You only got one of each of them are the rare ones. They're all 25 health, but they have a different way to gain the force, and Virgin's Temple might be a bit better than most of them. Because what it allows you to do is, when the regroup phase starts, which is at the end of your turn, if you control a unit with 4 or more remaining HP, the force is with you. Now, luckily in blue, there are a fair few cards, I think even in Heroism, there's a fair few cards that have a good amount of bulk to them, so a good amount of health, which can help you generate that. The only problem with Virgin's Temple is it's very easy to distract you, disrupt you from gaining the force, and also you can only gain the force once a turn, and it's at the end of your turn, meaning once again easy to stop. So you can either have the common bases, which can generate force a bit more, but need you attack with force units, which is also easy enough to stop, or Virgin's Temple, which can help you generate the force more guaranteed for the next turn at the end of your current turn, but then it's also easy to stop. Now, if you don't want to use one of these, you've got other options like Colossus, Pal City, and 30 health bases, which I'm not really going over because they're not really great options for Anakin, because you need the force for both his sides, so you need to generate the force, but there are options if you want to go for them. Now, also, when we ever talk about blue, we're going to always talk about Anakin Skywalker, his leader, his unit form, which is one of the strongest legendaries in the set, because he's got a very strong ability where it's got 2 abilities. They're both wind blades that require a certain aspect in your discard pile to be able to minus a unit's stats by 3/3 for that phase. Now, the 2 aspects you need are Heroism and Villainy, and these are ones that don't really mesh well together. You get one of them on your leader, depending if it's Villainy or Heroism, and the other one you don't normally have. So what people have been doing with their decks is trying to splash in if they're playing Anakin, the ever kind of aspect in the deck in some way, shape or form to be able to use, either by an easy way to discard, or some way to easily get into discard so you can get the full effect, because minusing 6/6 on a single unit, or minusing 3/3 on 2 separate units is very strong, making it one of the best legendaries at the moment in the format. And luckily for Anakin, there's an easy way to fulfill this, because his own effect is playing off aspect, basically the opposite aspect of Villainy non-units, and basically using those. So you've got a very easy way to trigger Anakin, making him very simple to play, because you've got some powerful ones like Paradox Side, Force Lightning, Everyone Barrage, being ones that you don't even have to pay an penalty for them. You just need the force then to be able to use Anakin, to be able to play them for the actual costs. You can play Paradox Side for free, Force Lightning for 1, you get the additional effect if you control a force unit, and Everyone Barrage as well, which is very, very powerful. And even then, having these accessible in any version of Anakin is also very strong too. Now, for ways to generate the force, you have a lot of force units you can use. You've got things like Barasofi and Yaddle, which you can play as early as turn 1 to be able to go ahead and then go and swing to gain the force, or even in Yaddle's case, be able to have 4 health on a unit for Virgin's Temple. You also got everyone's like Yoda, Ezra Bridger, Caden Jarrus, and Itinerant Warrior for like some early-ish ones, but not too late. That can also gain the force on both sides, both kind of bases, but you have 4 more health, or attacking with a force unit. You also have some higher-end cards as well, like Obi-Wan, Luke Skywalker, and Redemption in the heroic side. That's some very powerful cards. Once again, generate the force in either way of the base, except for Redemption only on the Virgin's Temple. And you got some other really nice cards like Jedi Lightsaber as well, being a nice lightsaber you can put on Anakin or any of these force units to make them even harder to remove and strong when swinging. And in the Villainy side, you've got some pretty good events to kind of go well with Anakin's effects, being like Paradox and No Glory being some very good picks. Now, in the non-Heroism side, that's where it kind of lacks a little bit in terms of the powerful, strong cards. You get some good ones, but it kind of lacks in as many strong ones. But you've got some good force units to help you get into force. You've got some extra turn 1 plays like Seed of Sage and Nice Sister Warrior, both not being too strong or defensive, so they won't gain you 4 Virgin's Temple to gain force, but with the common base you can use it, and even Secretive Sage, having a shield means it's a bit sticky to stick around and make sure it can get you in that first swing to get the force. You have Imwe. He allows you to use the force more often just for Anakin by defending with Sentinel, and you got the stronger ones as well, Inkyadi and Anakin Skywalker, that are good statted and decent costing, so very good bigger units. You also have some good events as well, like you've got a good upgrade in Trench you can use offensively or defensively, and then you've got some good removal and things like Shatterpoint, Direct Hit, Takedown, Fellow Dragon, and Ravel's Fall. A lot of 4-cost ones which will have different ways to kind of all ways to remove something, but different requirements or even restrictions and stuff to it. Or you got Rivals 4, which has no restriction, just defeat a unit but costs 6. So you got to think about, is Vigilance a good option to have with Anakin? And I would say absolutely it is, because you get some good ways to generate the Force, some good cards just inherently without worrying about what extra things you're going to have for Anakin's effect or things out of aspect, and a great way to play him. So now we covered blue and seen that is a great option for an Anakin. Let's check out green next. So once again we have bases, but this time with command, and the 2 force bases you have is once again the common base, which leads you to attack with the force unit to gain the force, and the rare base for command allows you just as an action gain the force, but having the ability to just gain the force is too good, so they've got restriction where you can only use it 3 times in a game. So you got to think about, if you want to go for that rare base, will you be using Anakin's effect more than 3 times? And if so, then maybe it's better to go for the common base. If not, if you feel like you might use it 3 times maximum or less, then you can go ahead and use just basically this base. You can generate force whenever you need. You've got some really good bases as well if you want to go for Anakin, but we're mainly going to prefer to have the force base, since Anakin really wants you to use the force for all his abilities. So in green as well, it is the ramp aspect, so it allows you to increase your resources quicker than opponents can. So in any other aspect, the only way they can increase your resources is by resourcing at the end of the turn, and green can do it outside of that. And these are the 4 ways you can mainly do it. You've got resupply, carrier, and resupply, which are the ones that instantly ramp you. Resupply carrier being more of a higher costing, more of a unit 1 as well, so both allow you to just literally play and resource, whereas resupply carrier gives you a unit on board as well as resourcing for the top of your deck, whereas resupply resources itself, and you can do resupply as early as turn 2, where resupply carrier is like turn 5 onwards. You also got these cheaper ones in Price of Your Head and the Spark of Hope. These are ramp cards with extra steps, because you need to actually do something and then use them to fulfill a ramp. So Price of Your Head, you need to put it on a unit, then defeat that unit to be able to go ahead and ramp from top of your deck. Whereas in say with Spark of Hope, you need to have a unit of yours be defeated, then play it, choose that unit has been defeated in your discard pile, and put it in play as a resource. So very good options to ramp. Some a little bit easier, some with extra steps, and good ones to use. Now in Heroism, you've got quite a few good kind of force units to help you generate force. You can actually go ahead and use Anakin's ability. And the main ones you've got are, like for turn 1s, you've got Luke Skywalker and Gungi as good ones, as well as Jedi Consular. Now Gungi and Luke Skywalker are probably going to be better, because they can swing and gain the force, and you want them to swing to gain the force. With Jedi Consular, you more want to use his effect to use the force to play out things a little bit cheaper, so basically paying something out what costs 2 less. You also got some other good force units as well. You've got Obi-Wan being a nice sentinel to help defend yourself. Ifkoff is extra ramp just by using the force, so it's good against Anakin wanting to use the force in him as well. So you can ramp, use the force with Ifkoff, or you can use Anakin's ability. You got Leia, which is pretty nice. The first kind of, well, one of the first lots of non-vehicle space units, which he plays out as a space, but then you can use the force to move her back to the ground arena and give everything that's heroic in that arena or on your board extra 2/2 for the phase. And while she's in the space arena, she can't ready, so she just stays there waiting until you can move her. And in your big ends, you got Kelleran and Yoda. Kelleran just spamming the board more than its actual cost, whereas Yoda can use the force to heal you, and every time you do use the force, you can help then deal damage to your opponent's units equal to the number of units you have doubled. So 2 units will be 4 damage, 1 unit will be 2. And you got U reinforcements where you spam the board later on in the game as well. That's a nice event. Other cards you've got that are good for Anakin, which are villainy non-units, because remember it's non-units you can play. You've got Craven Power, Overrun Barrage, and Palpatine's Return being really nice ones. Both Overrun Barrage and Craven Power buffing up a unit and then doing damage to take out your opponent's units is pretty good. Different ways of doing it. Craven Power being a permanent one you put on because it'd be an upgrade and does damage to 1 unit, whereas Overrun Barrage is a temporary boost that then spread the damage however you choose. And Palpatine's Return being a nice event you can use to revive something, and it costs it plays a unit costing 6 less, or if it's a force unit it costs 8 less, so you can play bigger force units. Now the nice thing about this is that any of these cards, it's not just restricted to the green version of Anakin. I'm just showing you in each one so you can see what villainy cards you can use across all versions of Anakin. Like it's all blue, you can play even like Paradox and No Glory in this in the green version, so you can play these 3 in the blue or any other version. Now in the non-heroism side, that's where it gets a little bit less impactful for the cards, especially for Anakin. You got some not really many good turn 1 plays you want because you want to generate the force, but you got some good turns for after that. So you got Maz Kanata and Hu Yang, that's his name, I almost forgot for a second. You got those for turn 2 onwards plays, which can either Maz Kanata can attack with a force unit with 2 more power for that attack, so a bit of a tank for a bit more, and Hu Yang be on the buff up another unit on your board, and while he stays in play, that unit keeps that buff. And you even got some other units that are force or basically require the force, being Jedi Temple Guards, being an ambusher with Restore 2, so gain the force and heal. The Gear Master can always use the force when it's played or undefeated to help you find force units for top 5 of your deck. And you got Turn to Rack, which if you're playing against a force deck, if your opponent controls a force unit, hit game ambush. You also got Reinforcement Walker you can potentially use as a later game. It's not a force unit, but it will gain you more cards or help heal you. And you even got Terrorist to hopefully take control of your opponent's weaker units that are 3 or less. So your opponent plays a turn 1 unit and buffs it. When you get to 5 resources, you can snatch it, so you can use it for yourself. And you got some good events, like you got Nemian Strike, allowing you to tap a force unit that's exhausted. Gains extra 1 power for that attack, even if it's rested, and just can't attack bases. Timely Invention to ambush in units as well. You can even smuggle it out later if you want to. Resupply, good ramp, and choose sides beyond switch control of units. So that's some good examples of what you got for green for Anakin. And is it a good option for Anakin? I would say yes, it is, because you got a good lot of force units. It's a pretty nice one. Plus ramp to play out more things often, and then you still got access to any non-unit villainy card from any different aspect in this version as well. So now that's green covered, let's go on to red. So for this next one, we've got Aggression being a very damaging focus one, and both its bases require you to attack to help be able to gain the force, just in different ways. So the column bases, once again, need to tap with a force unit to gain the force, whereas Temple Destruction being the rare one, this just needs a friendly unit to deal 3 damage via combat to an enemy base. So it means anything you can have can attack to gain the force, as long as it does 3 more combat damage to a base to gain the force. So it means you can play a little bit differently with this version of Anakin. Use other cards, as long as it can do 3 damage to base, they can gain the force 2, to then not worry so much about loading it with force units if you don't want to. You got some other bases, but we're going to mainly focus on the force bases, since Anakin needs to use the force with both sides of its leader. So in Heroism, here are some of the good cards you've got. You got good turn 1 like Anigalo for a force unit if you can play turn 1. You got some other good force units on board as well, like you got Jedi Knight being a pretty decent one, can even, if you got initiative, deal 2 damage to a ground unit, so maybe finish something off that's weaker or smaller. You can even play Ki-Adi-Mundi, which can even draw you more cards by using the force in his way instead of Anakin's, to then draw you 2 cards when played. You got Mace Windu, also has a different way to use the force. By when played, if you use it, you get to deal 4 damage to units, so a bit of removal. You got the other version of Mace Windu from set 1, being like the Heroic Vader, a 5/7 with ambush, but his effect is when it attacks and defeats a unit, restand him, so it could be a way to kind of clear your opponent's board constantly with multiple attacks, or even an attack, defeat something, and then swing the base. And you even got Shin Dragling, which if you do include villainy non-units that are lightsabers, like we've got full lightsaber here, you can use him, where when you play him, you can play a lightsaber upgrade from your hand onto him for free, and if you do, you get to ready him so you can attack straight away to your opponent's base or one of your units. And if you want to go for non-force units that can make you gain your force, especially if you turn 1 with a version of the Temple Destruction, you've got Green Squadron A-Wing and Ketsu Onyu as some good examples. From different arenas, both can swing and do 3 damage. Green Squadron with ranks to raid 2, swings for free, and Ketsu Onyu has 3 power and has Saboteurs that can use Sentinels. Now for non-heroic villainy kind of non-units you can play, I do have Darth Vader here, and that's because if you play Darth Vader using a pilot, you can use that through Anakin, so you can use Anakin to play Darth Vader as a pilot on a vehicle if you want to go that way. You can even go for a more space-focused Anakin with Temple Destruction, and even have a pilot side Vader you can play using Anakin. You got Fallen Lightsaber as a good upgrade you can put on things as well, and you got other Force cards like Force Lightning, Force Choke, which make very good ones. Force Lightning being a very nice one in your deck because you can play it for Anakin. It still costs 1 because once again you're on the aspect penalty, and then you can have the rest of the resource you can use to pay to do extra damage on that unit thanks to this. Now, In a non-aggression side, non-heroic side, you got a fair few good force units you can play. You got turn 1 like a fuse brawl, which can even if you don't have the force, which you're probably not going to gain the force turn 1, have it as a 2/2 force unit, extra 1 to be able to attack and gain you the force. You got Marin as well, be on the way to discard cards you discard as well to do more damage, chip away at things. Jed and Harden be a nice one. Comes in hidden, so you can't be attacked the same turn. Well, if you'd use the force, make him discard a card. You got Quinlan and Asajj, which are bigger ones, which kind of combine together or parallel to each other. Because Quinlan, when he attacks with 6 or more power, does 2 damage to your base, and Asajj can facilitate that by when she's played or attacks, give an extra 2 power to a friendly force unit. You also got Chamsidula, which is the only ramp card outside of green. Because when you play it, if your opponent controls more resources than you, you get ramped up by your deck. Very handy there. And you got some good events as well, like your Force Bow, a very good one, a very good reason to play red in this set. Because of all the force units, the more force units we got and force leaders. You got Atari Onslaught as well, being a way to, for 2, ready a force unit with 4 or less power, so you can attack again and maybe gain the force more. Or even restand Anakin to attack again as well. You got an removal in like open fire and bombing run for damage, which do damage, a certain amount of damage in different ways. And even then pillage you've got as a way to make your opponent discard cards for a bit more hand control. So is red a good option to go with Anakin? I would say yes, because you've got some good, once again, enough force units and good ways with bases to gain you the force, and also you're able to make use of some very powerful cards in it as well. So that brings us lastly to the let's go over Cunning next, or yellow. Right, so lastly we have Cunning, and this has once again 2 bases, but the common base is a lot better than the rare one. So with the common base, once again, standard force unit attacks, you gain the force, whereas the rare one, Tomb of Elram, this one has an effect where you can gain it multiple times a turn, but the action is to exhaust a friendly unit as a cost and gain the force. So you need to have a unit out, rest it, and then gain the force. So that means you don't really attack with the force unit, and you're not really getting it at turn 1, but at turn 2 you're basically resting a unit to gain the force. So you have it ready, but then you're not attacking the unit or making use of the unit, so it's kind of going against what you want to do. So I wouldn't say it's a very good option. And the thing with Cunning is the bases are very lacking compared to the rest of the Cunning cards. Like most Cunning cards are really good, like leads are good, cards are good, but the bases kind of lack. And I'm not really going to go over the other ones because Anakin really needs to use the force for his ability, so unless you don't really want to use Anakin, which then it's a kind of question of why play the leader if you're not using the force, then you want to go for one of these force bases, which the common ones are probably a lot better to use. Now, luckily in the Heroism side of Cunning, there are more force units because the villainy side kind of lacks a little bit in that area. But in Cunning Heroism, you got pretty good ones. You got Youngling's Padawan, which you could just when played give you the force straight away, so make sure you have the force straight away, which is very good. It means go on turn 2, you can use the force for Anakin to do whatever you want to with whatever you can. You got things like Vanessa Rowe and Ezra Bridges, pretty good turn 2 force units, both solid stats, with even Vanessa allowing you to use the force to restand her so you can attack, maybe gain the force again, and Ezra be able to look at the top card of your deck, either play it if you got the resources, discard it, or keep it there to draw next turn. You also got Ahsoka, which is a bit of hand control, plus a good force unit as well. And then you got Plo Koon and the Blav, which turns 4 and 5, which both have ambush to gain the force straight away, and pretty solid stats, with one Deppa having Saboteur, and then even Plo Koon if you got enough units on board, maybe even having raid 3. You also got Qui-Gon as your more top end, be able to once again ambush, gain your force, and also when defeated with solid stats at 7/5. Can help you then choose a non-leader ground unit your opponent controls, and force your opponent to either put on the top or bottom of their deck. Now, other things you have, because you can't ignore space, because space is what some decks focus on, so you need to make sure you're prepared for those. And you got things like Fireball, Millennium Falcon as ways to take out your space units to stop them from even gaining traction. And you even got things like Spark Rebellion being nice events as well. You can play more hand control ones if you hand knowledge and rip out something you don't want to have. Now, for non-units that are in villainy for Cunning, you got some good ones that are now going to be dead. You'll lock something down for 2 turns, even frozen in Carbonite, be able to make something stay down, stay rested, that's not a leader, and rest it and make sure it never readies again so it stays rested on board. In the normal side of Cunning, you have a lack of force units, like you only have 4, being Mysterious Hermit, Dooku, Lifewind Sage, Sorcerer's Tund. All have different stats and costs, and none are particularly impactful, but there are options if you want them. And then for non-force units that you've got that are pretty useful is Greedo and Genius Patrol Fighter. Greedo being a cheap unit can hit quite hard, whereas Genius Patrol Fighter can help disrupt your opponent as well as coming a little bit cheaper for shenanigans and stuff like that. Now for events, that's where Cunning kind of shines. It's got quite a few good events to use. You got one cost like Sheen's Flurry and Electromagnetic Pulse. Sheen's Flurry allows you to ambush in some force units, even though in the Cunning side you have a lot of those that already have ambush. You can have this as extra as you want. You also have Electromagnetic Pulse. This does 2 damage to a droid or vehicle and exhausts it, so you can help deal with those space units. You got good battle tricks with things like Surprise Strike, being able to tackle the unit and give him more power. There's a fair few of these in Cunning. And also you got some good free cost events like Outmaneuver, being able to rest an entire arena, so if you have a good one for space. If they spam the board there, you can just rest the entire board to kind of hold off on an onslaught for a turn. Waylay to just temporary removal, bouncing back to hand, that's not a leader. And then now to them as a way to kind of like cheat out a unit 2 turns ahead, as long as you control 1 unit on board with the same trait. So is Cunning a good option? I would say it is kind of, because you've got quite a few good force units to attack, but then the gaining the force you're limited to really the common basis needing to attack a force, but luckily you've got a fair few ambush units, so you can kind of gain that easy, and even a turn 1 unit that can gain the force straight away. So some pretty good Cunning cards in there to help you, like with hand control, ambushing and constantly attacking, and then like with any aspect combination you've got a lot of different good villainy non-units that you can play to make sure you're getting the good use of Anakin as well. Now the last bit we like to go over is my preferred aspects, because this is something I've added since set 3, because I used to get asked quite a lot if I would play this leader, how would I play it? And while I didn't put it in the first 2, I decided to put it in set 3, because sometimes you might be overwhelmed with all this information about how you can play a leader and all the different options, and you still might be stuck and want a little bit more help. So if I can add that into there, then I'm always going to add anything that can help out people as much as they can. So when it comes to this leader, my preferred aspect to play Anakin would be blue, because you've got some very powerful cards, especially with the Anakin Legendary is amazing, and having an inherent way to easily get a villainy card in your discard pile to help fulfill both its when played. It's just very powerful. And beyond that, I have access to some powerful events across all different aspects in one deck, like over on Barrage, like Force Lightning and Power Dark Side, all in one deck is too good to pass up. And you got a lot of good units as well with a good healing and removal from the aspect. So if I were going to play Anakin, I will play it blue. So that is it for today. Hopefully that's helped you understand how to build Anakin to suit you and your playstyle, and so you can go out and basically try him out, test him out, and have fun with him. So that is it for today, and that is it for the series until set 6 now. So hopefully, if you're interested in any leaders from set 5, go and check out their videos so you can kind of get as much help as you need if you need them. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.